We continue now at the top of Daf Yomi Gemara and Beis in Meseches Yoma. This is Yoma Daf 13b. The Gemara in the previous Amud had suggested that maybe what the Kohen Gadol does is he takes the second wife and he marries her and he gives her a divorce on the following condition. He says, if the first wife does not die on Yom Kippur, then you will be divorced. But if the first wife does die, then you will not be divorced. So the Gemara says that doesn't work either. Because what happens if the first wife dies halfway through Yom Kippur? Then it's going to come out lemafreya digita deha lav gitu. It's going to come out since she died halfway through Yom Kippur. So that means the get of the second wife was not a get. V'avid le'avod v'shnei batim. And then it comes out that while the first wife was alive, again, the avoda was done with two wives. And as the Gemara said in the previous Amud, the avoda of the Kohen Gadol on Yom Kippur can only be done with one wife. And so the Gemara makes another suggestion. Ela da'amar la, rather what the Kohen Gadol says to the second wife is as follows. Hareza gitech, this will be your get. Al minash atama chavertach. If the first wife, if my first wife dies, then you'll be divorced. The Gemara says that doesn't work either. V'dilma ma'isa chaverta, maybe the first wife will die. V'havale gita deha gita, and then this get will be a good get, so it's going to be a divorce from the second wife as well. V'kamle below bias, now you have a problem that there's no wife at all. And so the Gemara says the following suggestion. Ela de megarish lula tarvayu. Rather what he does is he gives a get to both wives. L'chada amar la, to one wife he says, Hareze gitach al menash shelo tamas chavertach. This will be your get if the second wife does not die. U'l'chada amar la, and then to the other wife he says, Hareze gitach al menash shelo tikonsi lebeis hakneses. This is your get on condition that you don't enter the Beis HaKnesses. And the Gemara says that's not going to work either. Gemara says, V'dilma lo ma'isa chaverta, maybe the other wife will not die. V'lo ha'ilahila Beis HaKnesses, and the one that had the condition of the shul, she won't go into the Beis HaKnesses. V'havale gita tarvayu gita, in such a situation, both divorce documents will be good. And again, you're going to have the problem, V'kamle below bias. It's going to come out that he does the avod on Yom Kippurim without a wife. So the Gemara tries another condition. Ela l'chada amar lo, rather what he does is as follows. He says to one of the wives, Hareza gitech al menash shelo tamas chavertach. This is your get if the other wife does not die. Again, then you'll be divorced. Well, l'chada amar lo, and then to the other wife he says, Hareza gitech, this is your get al menash she'ekonis ani lebeis hakneses. If I enter the Beis HaKnesses, then you're going to be divorced. De'imai soha, that way if one dies, hakaimaha, the other one will be the wife. V'imai soha, and then if the other one dies, hakaimaha, you'll have the other one. And the Gemara continues, Ma'ikol Meimar, what's the problem you can find with this condition? Dilma Ma'isa Chaverta B'Palga D'Avoda. The problem you might suggest is maybe one of the wives will die halfway through, V'Avid Le'Avoda L'Mafrei, and then it's going to come out retroactively that he did the Avoda, B'Shnei Batim, with two wives, as we said before. Again, if she dies halfway through, you're going to have a problem that at the beginning of the Avoda he had two wives. So Gemara says, no, in this case you can solve the problem. If he sees that the woman is about to die, what he'll simply do is, he'll quickly go into the Beis HaKnesses, and then retroactively he'll end up divorcing that wife who had that particular condition, so he's not going to have a problem of having two wives. And so the idea over here is that if the second wife dies halfway through, so the fact that she died, that means the first wife's get is not a get. So the first wife he was married to. But now he has to make sure that he's not married to the second wife, and in order to do that, he simply enters the Beis Knesses. Retroactively, he'll now be divorced from the second wife, and that's going to work out. But the Gemara says, Maskif lo Ravasi. Ravasi now asks a question. This is more of a general question. V'itema Rav Avira. Some people say it was Rav Avira's question. Ela me'ata. But according to what you just said, the entire Gemara here is based on the fact that when it says Beiso, his house, it means he has to have only one wife, not two wives, talking about the Kohen Gadol on Yom Kippur. So if the word Beiso in singular is mashma, one wife, so what about by Yibam? It also uses the term Beiso in singular. So Shtei Yevamos, what if you would have two Yevamos? Habos mi bayis echan, they come from one bayis. In other words, you have a situation of a person who's married to two wives, and he dies with no children. So now the brother's now supposed to do Yibam with both wives. So lo yisyavmo, they shouldn't do Yibam because it says Beiso in singular, and therefore there shouldn't be Yibam in this situation with the women. So the Gemara says to that, Yevemto Riba. When it comes to Yibam, it says Yevemto, and that actually includes even in this situation. And the idea over here is that we're learning from the fact that it says the word Yevimto twice, and the halacha again would be that in such a situation when the husband dies, one of these two women are going to have to do Yibam even in this situation. And the Gemara continues, Maskif lo Ravina. Ravina asks a question. V'itema Rav Sharvia. Some people say Rav Sharvia asks, Ela me'ata arusa lo tasyavim. According to this, a woman who's an arusa, who's not actually married, shouldn't do yibum. Again, because we said before, the word beso implies actually married, not simply kiddushin. And the Gemara says, hachutza, the pasuk says, hachutza, the rabos eso arusa, that even includes an arusa in terms of the halachas of yibum. And this pasuk with hachutza can be found in Devarim Chaf Hei Hei. Pasuk here says, Ki yeshu achem yachdav u'meisa achad mehem. Again, this is the case of yibum. You have two brothers, one of them dies, uvein lo, he has no son, lo siya ish hames hachutza l'ish zar. So pasuk says, the wife, the widow, should not marry somebody else. Rather, she should marry from within the family. Again, she should marry her brother-in-law. So from the pasuk of hachutza, we're learning that this is even true of an arusa, not only a woman who's married, but even to a woman who only has kiddushin. And the Gemara continues, Tana Rabbana, we learned in a Braisa. Kohen Gadol makriv onein ve'eno ochel. A Kohen Gadol, let's say, is an onein, and onein is somebody whose relative dies and it's the day of death. So the halach is he can still serve in the Beis HaMikdash and bring karbonos. He just doesn't eat, he doesn't partake from the karbonos. Rabbi Yehuda Omer kol hayom. Rabbi Yehuda says all day. Question is, what does that mean? So the Gemara says, my kol hayom. What does Rabbi Yehuda mean when he says all day? So Amar Rava says, Lo nitzruchel lo havio mitoch beis. Rabbi Yehuda means to say, even if he's not in the Beis HaMikdash right now, even if he's at his house, we bring him from his house, and we actually want him to serve in the Beis HaMikdash. It helps that it eases his pain that he's serving in the Beis HaMikdash while he's an onein. So Amar le Abaya says to Rava, one second, Hashtal Rabbi Yehuda, what are you talking about? According to Rabbi Yehuda, Afuke Mafkinan le. Rabbi Yehuda even says that a Kohen who's serving, we take him out of the Beis HaMikdash if he becomes an onein. The Tanya, as we learned in a Braisa, Hayominu Makriv al Gabe HaMizbeach, it says if somebody is standing and in the middle of bringing karbonos on the Mizbeach, V'shama Shemeis lo meis, and he hears that a relative dies, Meiniach Avodas Aviyotze, he has to stop the Avoda and leave. Divrei Rabbi Yehuda, that's what Rabbi Yehuda says. Rabbi Yossi Omer, Rabbi Yossi says, Yigmar, he should conclude whatever Avoda he's doing. So V'yat Amr, Ma'asina le mitoch beso, you're telling me the same Rabbi Yehuda who says the Kohen should leave the Avoda when he's an onein is going to say you bring the Kohen Gadol in from his house to serve. So that can't be what Rabbi Yehuda means. Elam Rava, rather Rava says, my kol hayom. What does Rabbi Yehuda mean when he says kol hayom? And we'll continue with this discussion in the next video on Daf Yudalid Amud Aleph.